The iPhone 8 Plus and the iPhone 11 Pro Max. Two devices, 6 years apart. Let's compare them. Alright, so I think first thing logically we should talk about is actually the build of this device, or both devices, because, well, it's the part you're touching, it's the part that is going to hold the device together, and I think it is something very important that everyone should kind of know about. So, to start off, both devices do feature a glass back. The iPhone 15 Pro Max has more of a matte textured glass back, while the iPhone 8 Plus is more of a glossy, shiny, and less slippery glass back. Now, what's connecting the glass back to the actual screen of the devices are actually the side rails, and the iPhone 15 Pro Max has titanium, which was definitely the talk of the town for this device. And the iPhone 8 Plus, although older, is built with some awesome aluminum. And if you haven't ever felt both devices at the same time, I would honestly say both devices almost have the same texture. Like the aluminum and titanium just about feel exactly the same to the touch, so no major difference there. However, of course, titanium is stronger, more durable, and typically a lighter material, while the iPhone 8 Plus with aluminum is a little bit less strong, a little bit more breakable. However, it is just about as light. Alright, a huge difference from anyone either coming from an iPhone 8 Plus to the newest iPhone or just looking at them in general is actually the sizes of the camera modules towards the back of the device. So if you look at them, the iPhone 15 Pro Max is a 3-camera setup, while the iPhone 8 Plus is only a 2-camera setup. However, you'll notice both cameras are sort of in the same position. However, the iPhone 15 Pro Max does have a much larger set of cameras, all of which are like the size of my fingernail at this point. And while both cameras are good, I would personally say the clear winner is the iPhone 15 Pro Max from bigger sensor sizes and better autofocus and just things like that. And of course, you will experience a lot more table rocking with the iPhone 15 Pro Max than you would the iPhone 8 Plus. Okay, well, now we kind of have to talk about screen sizes, as we've kind of gotten to there now. And I find it interesting, this is not the interesting part, but the iPhone 15 Pro Max does contain a 6.7-inch display, which is relatively large. There are some bigger devices out there, but it's pretty dang big right there. While the iPhone 8 Plus does contain a 5.5-inch display. However, comparing both models, this is kind of the interesting part, both models of device are about the same height and about the same width. Obviously, the screen is definitely bigger on the iPhone 15 Pro Max because you don't have that big chin, it's what you call the bottom, and then the top, which is the forehead, kind of resembling a person there. But yeah, overall the screen is bigger on the iPhone 15 Pro Max. However, if you are coming from an iPhone 8 Plus, the device itself will not feel much bigger. It will honestly feel about the same. Now the next big talk of the iPhone 15 Pro Max is actually USB-C. And so if you do look at the bottom of your phone, chances are it's probably Lightning, just like the iPhone 8 Plus. However, if you do own an iPhone 15, 15 Plus, 15 Pro, or 15 Pro Max, you'll notice it's actually USB-C at the bottom. So number one, that means you're charging from a different cable than a Lightning cable. It's more universally accepted. And number two, your actual speeds for data transfer are quicker. Meaning if you, for example, are recording ProRes footage with your iPhone, you can transfer it quicker through that charge port than having to rely on AirDrop for like the iPhone 8 Plus, for example. Now another difference is actually SIM card versus eSIM. Now the iPhone 14s are the ones that kind of came out with this eSIM only type of design change. And so that obviously carried over with the iPhone 15, and so just know that you are using an eSIM only on the iPhone 15s, whereas you have the option to use a physical SIM card on the iPhone 8 Plus. Again, another one of those things, it's like, I don't think that change needed to happen. I really think we're still fine with physical SIM cards. And also, in certain scenarios, yeah, changing your SIM with eSIM can be a lot more difficult. And I think it's partly due to just the fact that that technology just is not quite as good as we've gotten with SIM cards yet. Alright, and lastly for physical build and design is actually the mute switch compared to the action button. So with the iPhone 15 Pro and 15 Pro Max specifically, you do now have an option to use the action button, which is essentially, I've mentioned before in a previous video, a programmable button which you can hold for about a second or two, and it will do some kind of action, whether it's like a flashlight or a camera or a shortcut of some kind, compared to the mute switch, which pretty much I believe every other iPhone has had up until the iPhone 15 Pro and Pro Max. Yeah, all you do is switch it, and it'll make your phone either on silent or ringer mode. I mean, I always left mine on silent anyway, so it really was not useful. I mean, once you switched it, you never really switched it back. Alright, now on the software side of things, because every device has two parts, hardware and software, I think one of the biggest off the bat noticeable changes is actually Dynamic Island. And so that is present on the iPhone 14 Pro and Pro Max, as well as all of the iPhone 15 models. And you'll notice it's just kind of it's a lively, essentially a cover-up for the notch pill design hiding the Face ID sensors. But at least Apple has added some actual kind of useful features. Like if you can play music and then control that music from the Dynamic Island, as well as set a timer and then you can control that there too. It kind of works as just a smaller little information held screen which can display information. And so, you know what, I think it's a win. If you're gonna hide the ugly thing, at least make it useful. And I think Apple did do great on that. But as you can tell, there's no Dynamic Island on the iPhone 8 Plus. It is really pretty much just information at the top of the screen, and then of course on top of the screen is actually the speaker and camera and microphone and stuff like that. So not quite as fancy. Now moving towards the bottom of the devices, there's some obvious changes. Number one, the iPhone 15 Pro Max all the way back to the iPhone 10 has had this new swiping gesture where you swipe from the bottom and it allows you to do all the things you could previously do with the home button, which is on the iPhone 8 Plus. So if you've never used a phone with this swiping gesture, it might take a minute to get used to. However, I do find it honestly more, useful or quick, I guess. And I really don't mind it at all. Now that also means that you're dealing with Face ID versus Touch ID. So Face ID is on the iPhone 15 Pro Max, again, just like all the way back to the iPhone 10, whereas Touch ID is on any iPhone with a home button up until I believe the iPhone 5. And so that means with your Touch ID, you can put your thumb on the home button, it'll unlock just like that. With Face ID, you give your face to your phone and it'll unlock just like that. So minor differences, but it is different and something you might want to take into consideration. Alright, now let's talk about processing power. It's another thing kind of tied into software, but the iPhone 15 Pro Max is running Apple's brand new A17 Pro chip. So long are the days of calling processors bionic. Yeah, they're called Pro chips now. No joke. But yeah, so that's what the iPhone 15 has, whereas the iPhone 8 Plus is running the A11 Bionic chip, the one right after the A10 Fusion chip. I know, kind of confusing, especially if you aren't sort of educated on these different processors. However, I'll sum it up for you. The A17 Pro chip is miles more powerful than the A11 Bionic. I took some different tests here using Geekbench 6. It's an app you can download on the App Store, and it just gives, essentially it benchmarks, well, the processing power. And so as you can see, the iPhone 8 Plus is definitely miles slower than the iPhone 15 Pro Max, but that's also to be expected. I believe the iPhone 15 Pro Max has 8 gigabytes of RAM, whereas the iPhone 8 Plus only has 2 gigs. I will put it on screen if that's wrong, but I'm pretty sure both of those numbers are correct. But, well, lastly, I do want to talk about the action button menu. Obviously, this is only something present on the iPhone 15 Pro and Pro Max. and essentially it's the menu where you can actually control what the action button does. And I wanted to put this under software because it is a software thing, although I have already covered the action button before in an earlier part of this video. I do just want to talk about, you know, that little software window where you can kind of change different things. But that's been it. My name is Isaac Brown. I do hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please remember to like, subscribe, and hit the bell, as it helps me out a ton. I'm still working to make these videos a little bit better each and every day, and so I'm hoping this video was one step closer. But I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next one. So yeah, bye guys.